when we consider a grade, the first thing we're considering is surface preservation, and that's essentially broken down into three components. The first is wear, any loss of metal from circulation, or sometimes the metal is not worn off, but it's smoothed down just by the coin being used in commerce. And as you start to lose detail, you fall into different grade categories. And so generally, if a coin is very worn, so you just kind of see the outline of the detail, we consider that, we call that term good for among coin collectors. But as you start to see more detail, for example, very fine is the first area where you'll see the flatness appearing on a coin. So when the design elements start to flatten out, that falls in the very fine category. Extremely fine is when you see the first amount of wear. If you start to see breaks in the luster, breaks in just the very high points of the design being affected, that's about uncirculated. And then if a coin has no evidence of circulation whatsoever, we call that uncirculated. And there, surface preservation comes into play because we consider the amount of contact marks. So even if a coin hasn't been in circulation, when it was made, it was ejected from the dies into a hopper where it clanged with a bunch of coins, and it was put into a bag at the mint and transported. So it may pick up a lot of contact marks. So that's the second area of surface preservation. And then the third area of surface preservation we're considering is, has the coin been mistreated? Has it been repaired? Has it been cleaned with an abrasive, so it has a lot of hairlines? Or does it have some kind of damage, a rim file? And that's the third piece of surface preservation, and that will determine whether the coin can be graded or if it needs to get a details grade with a specific surface problem mentioned. First of all, when a coin is circulated, the luster is impaired, so when it's been used in commerce. But still, a coin that grades extremely fine should have luster in the protected areas, and a coin that grades about uncirculated should have luster over some of the devices evident on the coin. But an uncirculated coin should have fully unimpaired luster. Luster should be present everywhere. And then some coins, luster is just a factor imparted to the coin at the time it's struck. So the best coins, really gem uncirculated, wonderful, superb coins, have a mint bloom where the luster radiates and the coin, the light plays with the metal. And there's no way to bring that back. So if a coin's been mistreated or mishandled, the luster will record that mistreatment. And people think of metal as being very resilient, but in fact, the metal preserves the history of treatment of a coin very well. And some coins are just chemically treated or very lightly cleaned, and they become dull or subdued. And those are important factors because a coin may have very few contact marks, but diminished luster, and it can't grade very high. And so really, when you start to appreciate well-preserved coins, more than anything else, you're learning to appreciate the luster. When a coin is struck from the dies, a lot can go wrong. So sometimes the spacing of the dies isn't right, sometimes the pressure isn't right, sometimes the dies themselves have been used for a long time and become worn, and so you don't have a good impression of the design on the coin. And when a coin is really properly struck, when the full detail is there on the coin, even on the high points, all the hair detail, if there's a portrait coin, or the lettering is crisp on the edge of the coin, it presents better and is more desirable. And so generally when we're talking about coins that are graded Mint State 65, Mint State 66 or 7, higher grade coins, we expect them to have a full strike. And if a coin is softly impressed, it also can't grade very high. Also, it's important to understand strike and the way that coins are made, because when coins are circulated, sometimes you have a weakly struck coin that only has a light amount of wear, and we see this quite a bit on hammered coinage and early 16th, 17th century coinage, where the impression on the coin was weak, but it actually has very little wear, but a lot of details missing. And so when you're grading those types of coins, you really have to think about how much circulation has actually come into play, are grading the detail that's present on the coin. And so understanding aspects of strike become fundamental to grading, not only uncirculated coins, but circulated coins as well. Eye appeal is very important to a collector, and I always say, when collectors ask me questions about grading, I say, buy coins that you think are beautiful first, because you should love looking at your coins, and eye appeal is really that. So to some extent, eye appeal is subjective. What every person finds beautiful may be different, but generally when coins are original and have a brightness and a mint bloom, and the surface feels alive, or they've picked up a very pretty patina because they've been stored properly for many, many years, they're just visually more appealing. At NGC, when a coin has really eye appeal par excellence, better than is required for the grade, makes you say, wow, we put a star on the after the grade to indicate this is a really exceptional eye appeal coin, just to identify these things that are really special, that maybe the numerical grade alone couldn't capture their quality, and at least how much you'd appreciate them, and certainly their value. But it is a little bit of a subjective factor, and obviously when coins have negative eye appeal, when they're splotchy or when they're dark, when they're dull, or if their surfaces are rough, that's going to hurt their grade, and they may grade lower than they otherwise would if they were visually appealing. And if a coin is really, really special grade, it's going to get every benefit of the doubt. Special appearance. It's going to get every benefit of the doubt in the grade if it's a beautiful, beautiful coin. Whenever we're learning about grading, one of the first things that comes up is, has the coin been circulated? Sometimes we'll say, is it new or used? And we'll even talk about this in the grading room, about this coin is still new, even though it has some contact marks. And what we're looking at usually is the very highest points of a coin. So if it's a portrait coin, sometimes the ear or an area of the forehead is the highest point of the coin. And there starts to be, when a coin circulates, a color shift that we'll see. That if it's a silver coin, it'll get a little gray instead of being bright silver. And if it's a gold coin, it'll get a little tan in color. And that literally is from the luster being effaced from circulation, from wearing. And learning to look for that is very fundamental. And you could look under a magnifier at just the high points of the coin, and you'll see that color shift, and you'll see it on a lot of coins. Sometimes you can see where, when we're talking about a coin that grades AU58, you might not necessarily see a flattening or a significant color shift on the high point, but you'll see a sort of fuzziness throughout the whole coin. That's just the coin is kind of abraded everywhere. And sometimes we refer to those in the grading room as being worn in the fields, that the flat areas of the coin, some of the lower area of the coins, are just showing evidence that this coin has been circulated. And very often when we see coins that are lightly cleaned, they're cleaned for the purpose of making a coin that's lightly circulated appear as though it's a min-state coin, an uncirculated coin. And so that's another thing. Sometimes you have coins that look like they're nice uncirculated coins, but they're actually a little bit cleaned up precisely for this purpose. They're not missing any detail. And that's something that I think in particular for the German market, where there's been a preference for bright, untoned coins, we've encountered this more than we might in the US market.